formula to calculate the area of the rectangle. And of course, the activity one is as follows. I'm going to give you a rectangle which is made up of squares. And of course, each square is measured as follows. Each square is 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter, meaning that each square inside the rectangle would be 1 square centimeter. Consider the following. And this is the rectangle that I was talking about, which has got some squares inside. I want you to observe this rectangle with the squares and hopefully answer the following questions. The first question will be, as I proceed, how many square units make up the area of this rectangle? How many square units make up the area of this rectangle? If anyone wants to attempt, how many square units make up the area of this rectangle? Yes, Mushuri?
24. 24 square units.
Yes, 24. How do you know?
I counted all of them.
You just counted all of them. Yes, exactly. So there are 24 square units which make up the area of the rectangle. And of course, if you look at the dimension, what are the dimensions in terms of the length and breadth of the rectangle? You want to tell me maybe what are the dimensions? You're still there.
Sir?
What are the dimensions? Meaning that what is the length and what is the breadth
of the squares?
Yes, give me the length and the breadth. In terms of the
I think the length is 6 centimeters long.
6 centimeters long, because we've counted
Yes,
the number of squares, okay, and then the breadth.
the breadth, maybe 5.
How did you arrive at 5? You have the
Wait,
right
so
one.
the breadth is the top.
Remember the length and the breadth. The length is the longer side of the rectangle, and the breadth is the shorter distance.
Oh,
Yes.
so I think it's also 6
Why do you say 6?
because they almost look the same.
They almost look the same. All right. You need to look at the vertical side and the horizontal side. So already I can see you have calculated the horizontal side. You have said we have got 6 square units there. And you said it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you count them horizontally, can you count them vertically now? Do you know how to count them vertically?
Yes, sir.
Yes. From the top to the bottom, how many squares do you have?
Yeah. 4.
There are 4 exactly. So I'm glad that you finally found the right answer. Also from the top to the bottom, you've got 4 squares. But if you count them horizontally, from left to right, you can see we've got 6. And of course,
Yes, sir.
what will be the product now? What will be the product of the length and breadth if you multiply them together? Remember, the product means multiplication. What will be the product if you multiply the 2 together? Meaning that if you multiply the length and the breadth.
6 times 4.
So it gives you 6 times 4. And what
Yes,
is
sir.
6 times 4?
6 times 4 equals 24.
24.
Right?
Yes. So that will be 24. Yes, you are correct. So 6 times 4 will be 24. I fully agree with you. So if this is centimeters, then it will be 6 centimeters multiplied by 4 centimeters, and that will give you 24 square centimeters. Now, looking at the answer that you got in A, what can you say about the product of the length and breadth and the area of a rectangle? What can you say? What can you tell us? Looking at how many square units make up the area of the rectangle. Remember, you counted the squares inside the bigger rectangle and you gave me the answer. You said there are 24 squares. Now,
Yes.
when you look at that answer that we got, which is 24 squares, and looking again at the product which you just got now, what can you tell us about the product of the length and breadth and the area of a rectangle? What can you say?
I'm not sure, sir.
Okay, fine. Remember, in A, the squares or the square units where you counted them as 24. So if we go back to the rectangle with the squares, you can see that there are 24 squares inside this rectangle. This is what you can see. And we have already said that these 24 squares make up the whole area of the rectangle. Are we together? Can you see that?
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
count the squares, how many are they?
There are 24.
There are 24. And we said they make up the area of the rectangle.
Mm.
Now, that is A. Now, when you go to the last question there, or C, you can see you've just calculated now, you've given me the product of the length and breadth. And you said
Yes,
that
sir.
the product is 6 multiplied by 4. And 6 times 4, you said it's 24. So can I ask
Yes.
you, are there any similarities between the answer that we got in A and also in C?
Yes, they are.
What are the similarities?
The similarity in A is that we counted the triangles and got the answer. Then the similarity in D is
The product?
the product of the length and the breadth and
Yes,
the area of the rectangle.
which is also 24, isn't it? So
Yes,
this
sir.
basically tells you that we have the same answer. In A, the answer that we got there is 24. When you count how many square units make up the area of the rectangle, and of course, when you look at the next one, which is C, the product as well is 24. So basically, this tells you that the product of the length and breadth, which is 24, is the same as the area of the rectangle. Can you see that? It's the same because that makes up 24. So of course, your solutions are there. The first one, you've got 24 centimeters, and of course in C, you also have 24. So the conclusion that we can make is that the area of a rectangle is equal to length times breadth, which is L.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, I can't hear you properly.
All right, let me repeat. I'm saying that the conclusion that we are making from this activity is that the area of a rectangle is equal to length of the rectangle times the breadth of the rectangle. So the length is represented by the symbol L, whereas the breadth is represented by the symbol B. So meaning that your formula to calculate the area will be length times breadth, or alternatively L multiplied by B. So this is the formula to calculate the area of a rectangle. Remember, yesterday and the day before, we focused on the area of a square, which we agreed, all of us, that it is length multiplied by itself. Yes, it's length and length multiplied by itself, or side multiplied by itself. So, but the difference with the rectangle is that you multiply the length with the breadth, because a rectangle, unlike a square, has a length and a breadth.
Breadth.
Yes, I hope that the formula to calculate the rectangle makes a lot of sense by now. But of course, we are still going to have several examples. This was just the introduction. Now let's zoom directly to the next slide. You can see here's an activity there. We have got the rectangle alongside, which has got the length L and the breadth, which is B. You can see that. So this is the rectangle that we have. The length of the rectangle is represented by L, and the breadth is of course represented by B. Now we can also calculate the perimeter. We can also calculate the perimeter just as we calculated the perimeter of a square. We can equally calculate the perimeter of a rectangle. What is the perimeter of a rectangle? Or perhaps just to rephrase the question, once again, what is the perimeter? Is there anyone? Yes, Bella, can you tell us what is the perimeter? Just define a perimeter for us. Bella?
Length times length is 12, sir. Breadth plus breadth is, length plus length is 12. Then breadth plus breadth is 4. That makes it 16. The perimeter is 16.
Okay, are you now talking about the original rectangle?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for your input. But now, if someone was just asking you, let's say you are talking to a friend who has never done mathematics, or you are talking to a relative at home, and someone wants to find out from you what is a perimeter. How can you define it? How can you define a perimeter?
Perimeter is the distance around a surface.
Yes, exactly. The distance around the edge of the shape. So that distance around the edge of the shape is known as a perimeter. Now, in this case, looking at the rectangle that we just saw now, I think we've got a rectangle with the length L and the breadth represented by B. What is the perimeter of this rectangle? So obviously the perimeter of this rectangle will be the distance around the edge of the shape, our shape being the rectangle. Now you can see that we've got 4 sides. We've got B, which appears twice, and L, which also appears twice. Now, for you to calculate the perimeter of this particular rectangle, you will have to add L and L. I'm sure you'll agree with me that the perimeter, you must add all the sides. So we'll add the length plus the breadth and the breadth. And of course, L plus B plus B. This gives you 2L plus 2B. And of course, 2L plus 2B, you can take out a common factor there. 2L plus 2B. The common factor is 2. Once you take 2 outside, then you open the bracket, you'll be left with L plus B. So basically, this is the formula to calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. Is there any question up to so far? Is there any question up to so far?
So, So will you not need the number of the length, one number of the length and the other number of the breadth to calculate your final perimeter?
Exactly, you will. If you are given the length and the breadth, yes, definitely, you will need to substitute those values. Let's say that the length, like we did with the first example that I started with, we said that the length is 6 centimeters and the breadth was 4. Now you can substitute 6 for the length and then 4 for the breadth. And what is 6 plus 4? 6 plus 4 is 10.
Is 10.
Yes, now you can substitute this right inside your bracket here. You have 6 there for the length and 4 for the breadth, which makes up 10. Then you multiply 10 by 2, then you have 20, meaning that
20.
the perimeter of the initial rectangle, if I can take you back to that rectangle, this is the rectangle that we're talking about. The perimeter of this rectangle will be 20. It will be 20 centimeters because you have 6 and then plus 6, which is 12, and then you have 4 plus 4, which is 8. Then that makes up 20. You can see. So you'll be moving the distance around the edge of the shape. That will be your perimeter. So now I have defined the area of a rectangle this afternoon. I have also just defined the perimeter of the rectangle. And all that is left now is for us to use this formulae and apply them in the real life problems or in practical examples. Bella, your hand is up again. Right. Let's proceed now to the activity here. And we are given an activity here. If a rectangle, let's say that a rectangle has got the following sides, the length of 8 centimeters and the breadth of 4 centimeters. Calculate the area. In fact, let's start with the perimeter. Calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. That is the first question. The second question, calculate the area of the rectangle. Now, as Bella was asking, I've given you the formula now for the perimeter. I've also given you the formula for the area. Now I've got 2 participants whose hands are up. Let's see, I'm unable to see your names. Let's see quickly, just so that I can recognize you. Those whose hands are up. Let's go to Tokozo.
Tokozo. Ain't Tokozo. They're about to choose me.
Tokozo, please go ahead. Are you there, Tokozo?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, I don't understand because I speak now.
Don't understand the question.
Yes, sir, because I just came now,
Okay.
so I don't understand.
All right. Let me repeat. If the rectangle has got the length of 8 centimeters,
Yes, sir.
4 centimeters, calculate the perimeter of the rectangle and as well as the area of the rectangle. Now, I was just talking about the formula to calculate the perimeter. And as you can see in the previous slide, the perimeter is calculated as follows. To add the 2 lengths and the 2 breadths by saying L plus L plus B plus B. Now the formula to calculate perimeter will be 2 open bracket L plus B. So all that you need to do is to substitute.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Let's go to Amu. Amu, please go ahead. Amu, can you please go ahead? Let's go to Dorika. Dorika,
Hello, sir.
are you there?
Yes. Sir, I don't understand mainly a lot. I don't understand a lot how to calculate area.
Okay, use the following formula. Can you see B there at the bottom? We said that the area of the rectangle is given by the formula L multiplied by B. That is length times breadth. Can you see that? Can you
Thank
write
you,
that
sir.
down? I write it.
Yeah, I'm writing it down, sir.
Just write A is equal to L times B. Did you write that?
Yes, sir. I'm still busy writing it.
Okay. Now, as soon as you are done writing it, I want you to also write the next formula for the perimeter. So the first one was the formula for the area. And I said that A will be equal to A multiplied by, to write that down. So you are done by now. Right. And of course, as we waiting for you, let's go to the next hand, Slindine. Flint.
Take off your hand.
Is it slang? Go ahead, calculate the perimeter of the rectangle with the length 8 centimeters and the breadth 4 centimeters. Right, just to save time, let's carry on now. Obviously, you have to know the formula. If you don't know the formula to calculate the perimeter, you may not always get it right, unless of course you add all the sides. But at the same time, you need to know and understand the formula to calculate the area. And of course, this is how we proceed. We say that P is equal to 2 open bracket L plus B. And the length in this case is 8 centimeters and the breadth is 4 centimeters. Of course, if you add them together, 8 plus 4 gives you 12. So as you can see in the board or in this slide, you can tell that 12 multiplied by 2 will give you 24, meaning that the perimeter of this rectangle is 24 centimeters, having used the formula. In the same note, to calculate the area is length times breadth, that is L multiplied by B. And of course, the length is 8 centimeters multiplied by 4. And of course, 8 times 4 is 32. So the area of the rectangle will be 32 square centimeters. Of course, we will proceed to the next slide, unless, of course, if there's any question. Let's say that you are given the area. You are given the area of a triangle, which is 60 square centimeters, and the length is given as 12 centimeters. So now you are given the area as well as the length. You need to now calculate the breadth of the rectangle and thereafter calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. So you can see this activity is different. You now have the area. You also have the length. Can you find the breadth? Is there anyone who wants to attempt this one? Amu, your hand is up again. Okay, let's go to Ranzu. Let's go to Ranzu for a thing. Ranzu. Let's go to Ranzu.
Then the perimeter.
Is that Ranzu speaking?
Yes.
Yes. What is now? You are given the area of a rectangle. You are also given the length. Calculate the breadth.
The breadth. So may I please do the perimeter because I kind of don't understand the breadth.
Okay, but do you know the formula to calculate the area?
The area. Yes.
You know the formula. What is the
Yes.
formula? What is the formula?
The area,
Yes, the formula for the area of a rectangle.
you have to say 60
No, no, no.
times 12.
Before you substitute, I'm just talking about the length as well as the breadth. What happens to the length and the breadth? How do you define the area?
The area,
Yes, is it length plus breadth? Or is it length divided by breadth, or is it length multiplied by breadth, or is it length minus breadth, the area?
multiplied.
So you multiply the two.
Yes. I say
Yes.
60 times 12, and then that gives me 72.
Well, remember, I'm in Ranzo. Is it Ranzo speaking now? Remember that
Yes.
area. You have already been given the area, which is 60.
60.
Now this means yes, you've
Oh.
been given the area, it's 60. Then the length, you are also given the length, which is 12. So this means for you to get 60, you have multiplied 12 by a certain number. If you multiply 12 by a number, you get, so meaning that if you multiply the length and the breadth, and the length in this case is 12. If you multiply 12 by a number, which I'm not going to give you at this stage, 12 times a number will give you 60. What is that number? Which must be multiplied by 12. Yes, Dorika. Let's go to Dorika, Sise. Bonolo Sehole. If Dorika is not there, let's go to Bonolo Sehole.
Sir.
Bonolo Sehole.
Hello.
Yes, Bonolo. Are you Bonolo?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Bonolo, can you help us with the breadth? Calculate the breadth for us.
The breadth is 60 divided by 12 is
Okay.
equals to 5. So if
Breadth.
you multiply 5 by 12, it will give you 60, which is the area of the rectangle, to my understanding.
Thank you very much. You are correct, Bonolo.
Thank
You are
you,
correct.
sir.
So the breadth will be 5. You divide 60 by 12 to get 5. Do you want
Yes,
to
sir.
attempt the perimeter as well, Bonolo? Now that you found the breadth.
No, sir.
Okay, fine.
Thank you,
Before
sir.
we carry on, thank you, Bonolo. Bonolo has got it right. For you to find the breadth, remember that the area is always length times breadth. Now we have the length, which is 12. So it means the area is 12 times breadth. Now we don't know what the breadth is, but we know what the area is. So if the area is 60, then you say 12 times breadth, meaning that 12 times b is 60. And of course, you can divide 60 there by 12, and 60 divided by 12 is 5 centimeters. So therefore the breadth will be 5 centimeters. Then we can proceed to calculate now the perimeter. Now that we have the breadth, which is 5 centimeters. How would we calculate the perimeter? Remember that the perimeter has got a formula as well. Now we know what the length is. The length is 12 and the breadth is 5. How will you calculate the perimeter? So obviously you can use the formula now. Remember the formula that we used before? Here is the formula. This is the formula. Now we're going to the perimeter. We have the length and the breadth, and we know that the length is given as 12 and the breadth is given as 5. We've just calculated it to be 5. So all you need to do is to substitute. So let's substitute. Let's go to our activity. Now let us substitute. So it means you'll have 2 into L plus B. Right. I see, Ronaldo, I see you. But let me check if there's no other hand. Yes, Ntokozo. Let's go to Ntokozo.
The perimeter of the rectangle is 34 because 12 plus 12 is equal to 24 and plus 5 is equal to 29 plus 5 is equal to 29. 34.
All right, so what did you add there? Did you just say 12 plus?
12 plus 12
Okay, it's 24, yes. I agree with you. Then
and 5 plus 5 is
5 plus 5 is 10, yes. I
Yes.
fully agree with you.
4 plus 10 it is equal to 34.
Exactly. Thank you very much indeed, and Ntokozo, you are correct.
Yes.
Now, what Ntokozo has done was to actually add all the sides. So instead of using the formula, yes, you can do what Ntokozo has done, because in mathematics, we always say there are many ways to kill a cat. I don't know why they say there are many ways to kill a cat, but of course, this means there are many different ways in which you can approach a question. So you don't necessarily have to stick to the formula that we use. You can also, as Ntokozo has done, you can just simply add all the sides. So that is another way instead of using the formula. So Ntokozo says it's 12 plus 12, meaning that is length plus length, which is 24 centimeters, and the breadth is 5, 5 plus 5 is 10. And of course, 10 plus 24 is 34. So let's see whether the answers are correct. Yes, the answers are correct. You can see that in the first category there, we used L multiplied by B to get the area. And since the length was given as 12, then you substitute 12 times B. This is equal to 60. So for those who may not know what has happened, how did we arrive at 5? You should know that 12 is now a coefficient of B. And in order to get rid of 12, you must divide by 12 both sides. So you divide by 12 in the left-hand side. Remember that in mathematics, we always say, whatever you do in the left-hand side must be done in the right-hand side so that you can balance your equation. The equal side must be balanced. So you divide both sides by 12. And of course, if you divide 60 by 12, you get 5 centimeters. Therefore, the breadth, as we know, is 5 centimeters. Now, the last one, which was just answered by Ntokozo, as you can see, you can also use a formula. You can say your answer will be 2 open bracket L plus B, as you can see there. This is 2 open bracket L plus B. And of course, your length is 12 and your breadth is 5. If you add 12 and 5, you get 17. And thereafter, you multiply the 17 by 2. And 17 multiplied by 2 gives you exactly 34 centimeters. So we've arrived at the same answer with Ntokozo, who decided to add all the sides. So if you don't want to follow this formula, you can follow Ntokozo's example by adding all the sides, and of course, you will definitely arrive at the same answer. Let's proceed now. Consider the following rectangle. We have a rectangle in our list, and of course, this rectangle has got a length. You can see the length there, or the name of the rectangle is EFGH. Now, the side EH, as you can see, is longer than the side EF. So we call the longer side the length, and the shorter side, we call it the breadth. So the length here is 8.2 centimeters, and of course, the breadth is 5 centimeters. Now, having considered this rectangle, I want you to answer the following questions now. There are only 2 questions. Calculate the perimeter. That's the first question. The second one, calculate the area. So you need to calculate the perimeter as well as the area in this particular rectangle. calculate the area as well as the perimeter. So you can start, if you can choose, you can start with the perimeter or the area is fine, feel free. But if you are done, please feel free to also raise up your hand and let me recognize you. Azania Noto. Let's hear Azania.
Sir, I'm not sure what the answer is. I haven't finished calculating it yet, sorry.
Okay, but your hand is up.
Forgot to lower my,
Okay, thank you, Azania. Let's go to the next, Lena. Let's go to Dorika Sife. Dorika Sife. Are you there? Dorika, please go ahead.
Sir, the answer is 26,4.
So which answer are you giving me now? Is that the perimeter or the area?
For the perimeter,
Okay, for the perimeter. You say the answer is?
26,4.
Okay, you say the answer is 26,4. And tell me, Dorika, how did you find the answer?
I plus 8,2 by 8,2, then I plus 5, then I added the two answers together, then I got 26,4.
Exactly. So you followed Togozo's method of
Yes.
adding all the sides to get the perimeter.
Yes.
That's correct. You are correct, Dorika. And you add 8,2 plus 8,2, which will give you 16,4. And of course, 5 plus 5 gives you 10. And you say the answer that you got is 36,4, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is the correct answer there. So now you have that you've got the correct answer. Do you want to attempt the area as well?
Sir, I haven't gotten the perimeter yet. The area yet.
No problem.
I'll write it now. I'll
All
answer
right, let's go back to Ntokozo now. Ntokozo, I believe you want to talk now about the area.
Yes, sir. The
Okay.
area would be 40,4 because you say 8 times 5, which would be 40, then it would be 4.
Okay. So I fully agree with you. So which formula did you use? Maybe before I wrap up.
Excuse me, sir?
What was your what formula did you use now?
The
A is
length
equal
times breadth.
Exactly. So area is equal to the length times breadth. So all the time, know that the area of a rectangle is equal to the length times the breadth. And of course, as you can see, we have now calculated the perimeter and the area. And the area or the perimeter, as we know, is 26,4 centimeters. And of course, the last one, which is the area, you simply multiply the length times the breadth. And of course, if you multiply 8,2 multiplied by 5, it will give you 41 square centimeters. Always remember, basic information that you need to remember is as follows. The area of a rectangle is equal to length times breadth. And the perimeter of a rectangle is equal to 2L plus 2B. This is something that you need to remember at all times. When you are working with rectangles, whenever you have to calculate the area or the perimeter. The definition of the perimeter doesn't change for all polygons. It's the same definition. That is the distance around the edge of a shape. The only difference is the perimeter of a square will not be the same as the perimeter of a rectangle. That of a square, as we said yesterday, is just 4 sides, 4x. But of course, even in this case, it's still 4 sides, except that we have introduced now the length and breadth. So the terminology there is a bit different. Unlike 4s, which is 4 sides, you just use 2l plus 2b. And of course, this brings me to the end of our lesson this afternoon. And the following activity here forms part and parcel of your homework. I hope that you will take the time and the trouble to take the picture there. As you can see, today's date, 16th of April, 2020. The first one there, calculate the perimeter of the rectangle ABCD. That's the first question. The second one, calculate the area of rectangle ABCD. So you can see the rectangle there has got a length which is 9.3 centimeters, and of course the breadth of 7 centimeters. And all that you need to do is to calculate the perimeter as well as the area of a rectangle. Remember, before we close, we spoke briefly about different ways. If I can take you back to the rectangle that we had, in order for you to find the area, in this case, you can simply count the number of squares that are inside the rectangle. And where do we use this in real life? If you have a house and maybe you want to put tiles, and you need to know the area of your house. That is why even when houses are sold, you'll be told of square meters, or a yard, or a stand. If you want to buy a stand, it goes further. If you want to buy land as well, in square kilometers or square meters and so on. This is the practical aspect of mathematics. I believe that the lesson will go a long way to prepare you for battles ahead as far as calculations are concerned. The last one that I gave you, of course, was the homework, which I believe you can do, and we can be able to look at it tomorrow. Last but not least, please visit the following link. I've given you a link there. It's a video clip on YouTube, which you can view for more examples on the area, as well as the perimeter of rectangles. And of course, I want to invite you again to our next lesson, where we will finalize these polygons. And for further information, please feel free to send me a WhatsApp on 082-623-2148. Don't forget to also visit our social pages, Twitter account at Africa Team Geeks. That's our Twitter account. But equally, we're on Facebook as well, Africa Team Geeks. We also take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, Sasol Foundation, as well as MS Zora. You can also reach out to the DB website, if you want more documents as well as worksheets for mathematics, which can really help you a great deal in order for you not to be left behind during this period of COVID-19. Until we meet again tomorrow, thank you very much indeed. Have a nice day.